So are you
Hi and
pressing?
welcome all to the CAA show. My name is Juggi Bhasin. CAA is, of course, conversations and analysis. The true test of democracy is to some extent whether the government has its ear to the ground and listens to what the people want from it. The real test of democracy, to a large extent, is also if the government is prepared to listen to the opposition and engage with them. Today, it is my pleasure to have on my show someone who has constantly held a mirror to the Modi government. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Saira Shah Halim is one of the fiercest critics of the Modi government. Saira Shah Halim is not merely a political analyst, a familiar face on Indian television, a leading voice questioning the priorities and policies of the present government. She is a social activist, educator, a brand consultant to boot, even a poet, someone who deeply cares for the socially and politically marginalized and stands up for them. And lastly, she is also my friend who so very generously and graciously hosted and anchored the launch of two of my books in Kolkata and ensured the events were a great success. I will be talking to Saira to get a sense of the current battle of attrition between the opposition and the government. So, welcome to the show, Saira. It's great to have you on the show, and
Good
thank you so
evening.
much for joining us today.
Good evening,
Um,
Jaggi. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I've loved your
Absolutely.
books and I love your work. And it was amazing meeting all of you in Kolkata and then Delhi for an event.
Yeah.
You were absolutely brilliant. And I think your work is completely riveting. Everyone should grab your books and also follow you in the papers where you write you have these columns and everything. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Saira. So, Sarah, I'm going to you wear so many hats. I'm going to talk to you about your role as a political analyst. So, this today's interview is basically about your political analysis. And as I gave you the sobriquet, I gave you the title of the fiercest critic of the Modi government. Now, let me ask you the first question. Are you a critic because of one particular policy of the Modi government, or it is the entire agenda of the Modi government which really puts you off?
Jaggi, firstly, first things first, every battle, people say you choose your battles, right? So it's not being a rebel without a cause. I think there is a method to the madness. If you look at the Modi government, the way it came to power in 2014, you would be remembering the entire journey. Now, the journey, the advent of the Modi government started way long back. The 2002 carnage in Gujarat was an unfortunate incident, and it heralded Mr. Modi to power. In India, everybody knows that he got elected not despite the 2002 carnage in Gujarat, he got elected because of it. And it's very unfortunate when I need to tell you that, you know, no state can witness a communal riot if the government is determined not to have it. So I do not understand the magnitude of the riots that happened in 2002 when Mr. Modi was in power. How was he unable to control it? He was in power. If you recall, in the anti-Sikh riots, when it happened across India, Jyoti Basu held a very steely resolve, and the tremors of the anti-Sikh riots did not happen in Bengal, in Kolkata, because he was so firm about these things. So it's been a chain of incidents, the government completely looking the other way when lynchings of minorities is happening, othering of people who are not only Muslims, people who are liberals, who are intellectuals, who uh, have a voice, or rather who critique the policies. So people do not become dissenters just in a day. It is built. It is built over a time, and you test people's patience. You start criminalizing dissent. You start looking at ways to stifle democracy. Various institutions get subverted one by one, and suddenly there is a concerted effort to see that all pillars of democracy get crushed. So when you notice these early signs of fascism, it's important to voice it in different ways, by writing about it, by critiquing the policies, or even going on peaceful protest meets. So I don't think we are a fascist society as yet, at least not on paper. So I do not know how this whole CA-NRC
I'll come to that.
protest.
I'll come to that,
Yeah,
Saira. I'll come
yeah.
to that. But no, no, I understand gangs. I understand the disaffection completely, and there is something which you are saying, which needs, we all have to look into it. But let's come to the present, because a lot of what you are saying also has happened in the past. There's so much also which is happening in the present. And I want to take your attention towards a very burning issue of today, which is obviously the Pegasus issue. It
Right.
finally looks like as if the opposition has got a kind of a silver bullet, an issue which has literally pitchforked the opposition into the limelight, into the center of things. My question to you is Pegasus really such an emotive issue that it will sway the Indian people? If you remember the Bofors issue long back, that was a very emotive issue connected with defense.
Hmm.
But is Pegasus something like
Right.
an emotive issue which will sway the Indian people?
See, the Nixon government was brought down in America because of this surveillance state strategies. So it is a huge issue, and there have been efforts to deflect the attention where you criminalize dissenters, you criminalize journalists for doing their job, you criminalize peaceful protesters, you criminalize authors, prominent people. You have this military style surveillance, being monitored through your mobile phone. So technically, even this system is clear that we use it during an exceptional time when there's war happening, when people are plotting, the overthrow of a regime, not on prominent citizens of the country.
Correct.
And here, this particular, software is clear that 50,000 people names have come up across India, across the world. Now, if you look at the list in India, who are the people targeted? They were people who were actually like opposition leaders, prominent activists, journalists, then members of a commission that was actually, finding faults with the Modi regime, and some from Mr. Modi's cabinet as well.
Mhm.
So if you look at these people, are they such a threat to the current regime? They are normal people who have an opinion. So today, if you put a spyware technology that is used during a warfare, it is a threat to freedom of speech, is a threat to right to privacy, is a threat to individual rights of citizens. It's anti-constitutional. It's as simple as that.
Okay,
So
okay.
yes,
Yeah, at this point, Saira, I'll just take you to a very interesting point, because I know personally that you come from a military family. Okay, I know
correct,
that your father is such a distinguished soldier of
right.
the Indian Army. Your brother has also been in the Indian Army. I know about that. Now, would you agree that the Pegasus software, we know it's a military software, at one level it is required by India? Would you agree with that?
It is required when you're fighting terrorists. Like, for example, the organization also is very clear when you're fighting terrorism. Now, tell me, Rahul Gandhi, okay, you have like election strategist Prashant Kishore, you
Mhm.
have Abhishek Banerjee, you have a person like Ashok Lavasa of the election commission. So tell me, how are these people terrorists? Now the
Mhm.
idea is to tag, identify, and also kind of ruin reputations of well-placed individuals. So
Mm-hmm.
is the government so paranoid of dissent that they are using this software to target, tag, criminalize, delegitimize their work, monitor them 24 by 7? And
Mm-hmm.
this is the 21st century. So don't call it a democracy, then it is a full-on autocracy, or a full-on Orwellian, what do you call, empire,
Empire.
where
Yeah.
everybody's on watch 24/7.
But somebody who's,
And
let's say, opposed to Saira, to your views, would argue that these are all conjecture, these are all lists in the air, there is nothing concrete. The name of the whistleblower hasn't been revealed as yet. Maybe it's coming the next few days. We don't know. So should the government then order an inquiry, a court inquiry, or a JPC on the basis of conjecture or on these reports, you think?
see, we know what happened in America. Snowden, I mean, he revealed some very, very classified information. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean it was incorrect, right?
Right. Right.
So if you are kind of critiquing, or you feel that something is not legit, I don't know why people cannot stand up. You might be from the government, you might have been part of in charge of certain portfolios, but if you are a whistleblower, I think it requires a lot of courage to talk truth to power, to even stand up to the establishment. It doesn't mean that you're going against the nation. And
Mhm.
I'm being very I'm sticking to my guns when I say this, that just because you're anti a party doesn't mean you're anti the nation. You're not against this, but there's a certain atmosphere which is tagging people who are
Mhm.
critiquing the policies, because end of the day, anything that is Nehruvian, anything that is liberal, anything that is slightly left leaning is being looked down with disdain. And if you're calling yourself a democracy, you should be open to all kinds of criticism, all kinds of critical appreciation also. So it's not there that people are out there to criticize. If the
Correct.
government does a good job, we'll say thumbs up, pat on the back, great,
Mhm.
wonderful.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not that people are watching you just to criticize you. When you're doing a stupendous job, we will appreciate it as well. But what is happening here is people are not concentrating on nation building.
Yeah.
The particular political party is just dividing people. If you
Dividing.
look at what's happened in the Northeast, if you look at the social fabric, if you talk to people, WhatsApp groups of colleges, school, people are discussing Mr. Modi. So people have actually started blocking people on social media, which did
I
not
understand.
happen
Yeah.
every before
Yeah.
this.
Now, I what actually I find a little something which I cannot understand is, now you're based out of, obviously, from Kolkata, so you are very familiar with the West Bengal politics. You're very familiar with that side of the country completely. Though you have an overall understanding of everything what's going on in the country also. But I find this strange coming together, and I don't know if there's a coming together of the left and Trinamool Congress, on these issues. Um, are the differences now have been cemented? You think that this is no doubt a very important issue for the opposition, but do you think, because I know, for instance, your husband, of course, he's the leading star of the left front. Do you think that there is now a synergy, a genuine synergy between the opposition, or this is something which is just patchwork?
Unfortunately, Jaggi, there is no synergy between the opposition. In fact,
Okay.
there's a lot of bad blood, because post the elections, once the verdict was declared in West Bengal, there was a complete unleashing of, what you call, targeting of opposition activists. There were a lot of deaths, and there have been inquiries to these
Mhm.
incidents of violence. People have lost lives. More
Right.
than 80 people have lost lives in West Bengals. And
Yeah.
targeting of all political parties, right from the BJP to the CPM to the Congress leaders, cut across different party lines. So that should not happen, in a progressive state. Okay,
Correct.
fine. There was celebration that Mamata Banerjee has come in, but not in this current state where opposition activists and party workers were attacked so ruthlessly.
So there are differences of opinion, you're saying, but let me now broach on a slightly different issue, but it is connected with the left, Saira. What do you think is the bigger problem today, right now, as we speak of the Pegasus issue or the handling of the left front government in Kerala of the COVID situation? It seems a little out of control in Kerala.
See, I'll tell you what, this has been done to malign the left front government.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, COVID, when you're determining the extent of COVID cases Kerala, there are different factors. Now, the number of testing in Kerala has increased. Okay, so that is why these astonishing numbers, because the testing numbers are much more than any other state. If you look at the media, the way they're going about it, so irresponsibly, they're saying because the government gave complete liberty on Eid. Now, come on, that is totally communal.
I
Because
completely agree. It can't be in just 3 days the numbers have gone up. They have
three
been
days,
going up
how
for
can the
quite some
numbers
time.
go on? It is because the testing has increased, and they will be slightly higher rate across the country than the
Sure.
speed observed, because it
Yeah.
has the highest number of testing which is being done. So that is why the whole hullabaloo about this. Yeah.
Okay. Or could it be that the problem really lies because the earlier health minister of Kerala was a very competent person? Veena George might not be probably be able to handle this at the moment. Do you think that could be maybe this is the wrong pick or the wrong choice of the government there?
See, the cabinet, the people who've been chosen in the cabinet, that might be questioned. Of course,
Okay.
that might be questioned, but it is in no way what do you call determine the rate of infections. The
Okay.
other states are concealing the numbers. Kerala has been very prompt in tracing, in tracking, and in testing. That is why the numbers are higher than the other states.
Right.
The
Okay.
testing tracking has been very bang
Yeah.
on. It's been very
I
amazing.
understand. I understand. You made that point absolutely clear. Now, Saira, let me ask you another question about COVID, which I have always wanted to ask you really for a long time. Now,
Right,
let's go back a little into the coverage of the COVID pandemic.
right.
And we all know that those critical 20 days when the second wave was at its height all over the country,
Hmm.
there was devastation, so much of suffering and death. And I completely agree on one point that on many parameters the government failed. I agree with you. But I'm still not too sure that the coverage we did, the media coverage, especially both nationally and internationally, was, I thought it was really over the top. People are going into COVID wards, so much of reporting from crematoria, from burial grounds, no privacy respected. Just tell me your views about it. Where do you stand
See,
on this?
a lot of people died waiting for days to get uninterrupted oxygen. Of
Mhm.
course, the COVID deaths are there, but let's also be clear that people were unable, that the government was not in readiness mode. They were not prepared, to face the second wave. The priorities were totally different.
Mhm.
Central vistas being built, the whole map of Delhi is being changed. If you look at it, diplomacy, programs were happening. The vaccines were being sent to other countries, and India started facing, an acute number of vaccine shortage. So the whole priority of the government was so different that Kumbh Mela is being allowed. Then this whole irresponsibility overall,
Okay.
no responsibility or ownership, it all led to the second wave. You
So
could
you
have
think the
easily
media,
handled.
you think it was justified, the coverage, you think it was, you're okay with it in the sense you're saying.
See, people were actually gasping for oxygen. I have myself sent cylinders sitting in Kolkata to somebody sitting in Lucknow, to somebody sitting somewhere else.
Yeah.
SOS, SOS. My entire feed was on SOS. I
Right.
have personally lost friends who I used to hang around with in the
Oh,
second wave, and they're all
yes.
young people in their 40s, their 50s, 30s. My
Mhm.
cousin was, like affected in the second wave. So
Right.
yes, the end of the day, we need to make someone accountable, and it was a total mishandling.
Total
They were
mishandling.
not
Okay.
prepared at all to
Okay.
handle the
So,
second wave.
Sarah, let's come to the last segment of the interview, and I know this issue which I'm going to now raise is very close to your heart. I know that because I have read your posts, I know about this. Let's first start with the CAA agitation, and you have written extensively about
Right.
it. You have posted so many. Now, on the face of it, the CAA actually seems to be a bit of a harmless law, if you really ask me. But I want your perspective on it because there is a sense that the Muslim community has been affected by it very badly. Can you explain to us how? I mean, honestly, maybe I might have a slightly different view on it, but I would still like your kind of response to it. How have they been affected by it? Just tell us about that.
See what now, Jaggi, our country is never differentiated or been discriminatory as far as providing citizenship is concerned. We don't
Okay.
have a problem where the marginalized and persecuted communities are coming from ABCD country. But when the home minister goes public and says, so and so, so and so, so and so are being invited, under this, under the CAA, they'll be giving citizenship, and you don't mention one particular community. It is very clear that it is a completely biased and discriminatory law that actually judges people on who can seek citizenship or not based on their religion. It's
Okay.
not about the country that they come on, because everybody, right from Buddhist to Jain to blah 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 blah, everybody is, So you mean to say that Muslims who are fleeing neighboring country, they are not persecuted? You know that how Shias are being persecuted, okay,
Mhm.
in certain countries, neighboring countries. So why are you leaving out one particular community? That is the issue. The problem is not that particular persecuted communities in Afghanistan or Pakistan or wherever are getting asylum. We welcome it. Okay, we want it to happen. We want them to get the citizenship, but here the law needs to be equal for everybody. And I feel no human being is illegal. If you can give asylum, political asylum to a person,
Okay.
it's a feather in your cap.
Okay, okay, okay. And no, I get a point. So, two separate issues which you have raised is one is, of course, that the law has to be equal for everyone. And if you're also saying that if the Muslims had been included in the list, in the CA list,
Absolutely.
perhaps this law would have been absolutely okay with you. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and there was a lot of fear, Jaggi, in the community that it'll lead to disenfranchisement
Yeah.
of the community. The way, and you know it, Assam, what was happening, these detention camps were being made.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this NRC report, who are the ones who were left out in the initial graph?
Mm-hmm.
Majority of the people who were left out in the initial graph were the Hindu community. That means it was the imperfect way of actually filtering out, and the names that were being used in media, calling people termites. You don't call somebody a termite.
Okay,
He's a person who is escaping very trying circumstances and come to your doorstep.
okay,
You
okay,
don't term these people as termites. I'm
O-
sorry, that is
okay.
unethical.
So let's take a on this particular issue only and connect it with this. Let's take a counter view that there are critics who would say that you have a point, but they would also say that if you compare it with the Congress era,
Hmm.
more people have died in communal riots during the Congress era than, let's say, and I know there have been the Akhlaq lynchings, there have been on the cow issue, there have been some people have definitely have been killed, people have been persecuted. I am completely in agreement with that. But the quantum of people, the number of people who have lost their lives, who property has been destroyed, has been much, much more during the Congress era. What do you say to that?
See, Jaggi, that can be debatable. See, the Congress did not. It was very unfortunate that the anti-Sikh riots happened in the 80s. Very, very unfortunate, because see, who was the government in power? Why did a countrywide riot of that magnitude happen? So I feel yeah, things have gone drastically wrong. And if amends can be made, if the person who is the next chief whip or the next in command can somehow try and redeem whatever happened, not try and worsen the situation. He did, ensure that Mr. Manmohan Singh become the prime minister instead of Sonia Gandhi, and they were actually trying to reach out to the Sikh community.
Sure.
Now, what has happened is, if you look at the 6 7 years, the entire anti-minority agenda of the Modi government is so blaring and glaring. The people who have been accused of serious violations of human rights, people who've been accused of lynching, you're giving them tickets to fight elections. What
Okay.
kind of a message does it send out? Right from Mohammad Akhlaq to Pehlu Khan, Tabriz Ansari, Junaid Khan, and so many others whose names have been forgotten. You know, so the whole protests that were happening before the pandemic, happened. It was actually a trigger that pushed the community out on the streets.
Okay.
And
I'll have to wind up this soon, Saira. But on a personal note, let me say, because I know you, and you've done fabulously well for yourself. You have done extremely well. But this is on a personal note. I'm asking this question. But hand on your heart, do you think that the today the Muslim community lives under a cloud of fear? You genuinely believe that?
100%, 100%, no denying that. If a
Okay.
person, like me, has developed a thick skin, I was on a program, I'm not naming the person, but
Mhm.
before I could even utter a sentence, the person started shouting. The team got in touch with me, ma'am, what is your comment on the porn issue in India? I
Mhm.
said it is absolutely illegal if somebody is circulating porn videos and making, circulating it, producing it, or doesn't have the person's consent. Before I could even utter it, there's so much of name calling and
Sure.
anger. It's as if you're just looking for people to kind of target or to malign. It is so unfortunate that you come and you say these things that are not kind to
Right.
people just because they have a contrarian view. So it
Correct.
is happening. People are feeling the heat, and it is just not the minorities who are feeling the heat. Intellectuals from all walks of life, they are being treated shoddily. It's not, they've been called kind of liberandos and what Lutein, Delhi, and this and that every
Okay.
day in and day out, day in and day out. It's actually nauseating now.
There's quite a vicious atmosphere. So let's kind of end on this note, and let's go on a note of optimism, Saira, and just imagine a situation that tomorrow, if your worst critics, some of the people you have spoken about, if they were to come in front of you, you would meet them in the corridors of Parliament or in some other place, or even in the marketplace. Would you smile? Would you shake hands with them?
you
Or
know the good part is, Jaggi, I've got friends from different walks of life, different political parties.
okay,
I have people from RSS also who
okay,
message me and they say, let's catch up and let's do that. That's a personal equation.
correct.
My best friend is veers towards the BJP. But what happens is, when you justify riots quoting what happened during Babur's regime, okay, and you go back to to the Mughal era, where you sit and you kind of delegitimize whatever
I understand. Yeah,
something in the past does, then it becomes really unsettling. You talk sense, you talk with facts, you talk gracefully, people will accept
they will accept.
opposing views. But when you start abusing, when you're using slander, when you are delegitimizing somebody's hard work, that's when the anger builds up. So
That's where the anger
hopefully
builds up.
things will improve.
Yeah.
And end of the day, we're still a democracy, and I'd rather be a part of a fractured democracy than a totalitarian state.
Absolutely, Sarah. And just for the benefit of our viewers, Sarah and I are good friends, but we also have differences of political opinion at many times, but that's okay. At the end of the day, we all coexist in a thriving democracy. So, Sarah, it's been absolutely wonderful getting your views on some of the most pressing issues of our time today. And great to have you on your show. And I wish you all the best of luck in your future endeavors. And we're hoping to see you maybe next time as a member of parliament very soon.
Thank you so much, Juggi. It was
I
wonderful
know that will
having
be
you
one of
on.
your
From
ambitions.
you, coming from you, I am feeling overwhelmed and really humble. Thank you for your kind words,
Thank
and I love to interact with you. Love your work, and
you.
wishing you all the best. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Saira. Wonderful having you. Thank you.